Hey guys, Max here. And last June, Republicans changed the face of politics when the Supreme Court's 6 conservative justices voted to overturn half a century of abortion rights in America. And the impact was immediate.
There is now a patchwork legal system in America as a result of the decision in Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization. Only 15 states still allow abortion up to between 24 to 28 weeks, which was the standard under Roe. 13 states had so-called trigger laws, which implemented total abortion bans as soon as Roe was overturned.
The Supreme Court's rogue conservative justices did way more than just overturning Roe versus Wade. They also opened the floodgates for an unprecedented assault on privacy rights, something that caught even some Republicans by surprise.
Everybody, when you look back years from now and your teenagers end up dying because they have gone to get an illegal abortion because they didn't know they were pregnant at 6 weeks, it is our fault.
What's your reaction waking up this morning knowing that the governor is planning to sign this into law as soon as he can?
Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed. Actually, it came down to one male. And, I'm thankful that they stood with us before. But basically, at the last minute, he caved.
And friends, let me level with you. It is a mess out there when it comes to reproductive rights. Today on The Third Degree, we're looking at the ongoing nationwide fight over abortion rights and how the latest crop of insane Republican anti-abortion bills could be the deciding factor in next year's presidential election. But first, let me take a second and just say thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel over the last couple of weeks. We're now over 1,000 subscribers, which is absolutely crazy. And you can help out by subscribing to the channel down below. It really does make a huge impact on the channel's growth, so don't forget to do that and toss a like my way if you like the video. Now, if you've been paying attention to the explosive national fight around abortion, you may have heard this gem from Florida Governor Ron DeSantis lying about Democrats wanting to institute post-birth abortion, which doesn't exist.
You've been asked by a number of members of conservative media, and you have yet to give a yes or no answer. You recently signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. Yes or no, would you support that as a nationwide ban?
So I said I'm pro-life. I will be a pro-life president, and we will support pro-life policies. If we lose the election, they're going to try to nationalize abortion up until the moment of birth. And in some liberal states, you actually have post-birth abortions, and I think that that's wrong.
But that post-birth abortion line sounds a lot like another Republican candidate for president, the frontrunner, Donald Trump. Here he is parroting that same nonsense to CNN's Caitlin Collins.
I want to do what's right, and we're looking, and we want to do what's right for everybody.
But what's right?
But now, for the first time, the people that are pro-life have negotiating capability, because you didn't have it before. They could kill the baby in the 9th month or after the baby was born.
Abortion bans may be the talk of the national GOP, but the biggest trick Republicans are pulling is convincing Democrats to stay focused on the presidential stage, while Republicans in red states across the country roll out some truly insane attacks on abortion rights. That was definitely the case with Missouri State Representative Justin Sparks, who believes we need to ban abortion in order to, in his words, repopulate the world with tough Christian men.
God called us to make disciples of many, and I'm taking that literally.
That's right.
Make the disciples.
Right. We have to repopulate the earth with strong men and women of God.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And if you think it's weird to want to breed the army of Christ here on earth, well, just wait for this. Because Missouri is currently debating legislation that would make it illegal for a woman to leave the state to get an abortion at all, even if abortion is legal in the state she's traveling to. Now, you may be asking, how is that legal? And, well, it isn't. But with Republicans controlling the governorship and the state legislature, there's not much Democrats can do to stop them. And that's just the stuff the mainstream media has video footage for. Most of the worst offenders in red states are passing laws behind closed doors, away from cameras and public accountability. This year alone, Republicans have introduced or passed over 250 anti-choice bills across the country, and many of those strip away rights women have had for half a century. The fact is, Republicans have a free hand to propose crazy measures like Missouri's because they've spent decades working to control every aspect of state politics. Right now, Republicans control almost 60% of state legislatures, And in 22 states, the GOP runs both the legislature and the governor's office, which allows them to put forward some truly nightmare-inducing stuff. But just because Republicans can pass terrible bills doesn't mean it's smart politics. And now the right's caught in a trap, because while most Americans want more reproductive freedom, Republicans' deep-pocketed mega-donors are anti-abortion fundamentalists. Now, Republicans can read electoral maps, regardless of what Donald Trump says, and they know that their regressive and unpopular reproductive rights positions are a big reason why they failed to win the Senate back last year. But that doesn't matter, because the policy people are no longer in control of the GOP, and they haven't been for years. In their place are candidates willing to promise the MAGA base whatever they want in exchange for their support, including sweeping nationwide abortion bans.
We'll get something done where everyone is going to be very satisfied. I believe that.
On the national level and national level?
I think we'll get it done on some level. It could be on different levels, but we're going to get it done.
Is that the radical left has decided to continue the federal push for abortion on demand up until even the day of birth. They have voted in the United States Senate to have abortion on demand. Because of that, I would say, as your president, I would encourage and fight for a 15-week limit of abortion in our country.
Timbo here is part of a growing national trend. From U.S. senators to state representatives, Republicans nationwide are embracing more extreme abortion bans than they've ever considered supporting before. Republican politicians are being driven even further right on reproductive freedom because MAGA voters are out for blood, and they've been told for decades that it's a mortal sin to allow abortion at all. So there's really no room for compromise in their mind. Since the Supreme Court has already done away with Roe v. Wade, Republicans don't need to hide their real motivations anymore. And believe me, they are terrifying. Think I'm exaggerating? Okay. Here's Nebraska State Senator Steve Erdman arguing for a blanket ban on abortions in his state, and his reasoning has nothing to do with that so-called culture of life. No, Steve is worried that there won't be enough native-born workers to keep the foreigners out of Nebraska.
We have killed 2,000 babies since abortion became legal. Those are 2,000 people in the state of Nebraska that could be working and filling some of those positions that we have vacancies. They're not here. Our state population has not grown except by those foreigners who have moved here or refugees who have been placed here. Why is that? It's because we've killed 200,000 people. These are people we've killed.
And let's stay in Nebraska for a minute, because Erdman's colleague Steve Halloran wants you to know that Republicans' anti-choice laws are actually pretty good, because after all, every pregnancy is a consensual choice between two adults, right?
And we've been in a state where, or a country where for 50 years, abortion has become normal. And phrases such as forcing women to be pregnant are used. No one's forcing anyone to be pregnant. Pregnant's a voluntary act between two consenting adults. We won't go into details. We're all adults here, and there may be some children here. But no one's forcing anyone to become pregnant.
You're wrong, Steve. You're wrong and dumb, man. For one, many pregnancies are not consensual. And Halloran says that pregnancy is a voluntary act between consenting adults, in a state where the age of consent is just 16, and child marriage is still a common occurrence. According to research from advocacy group Unchained at Last, 97% of those marriages are an underage girl marrying an adult man. Weird. And many adult survivors of child marriages have come forward to describe pregnancies they didn't want but were unable to terminate. And this is the same party getting all worked up about protecting those vulnerable kids. Give me a break. But it's about at this point that the GOP's fever-pitch frenzy to ban abortion runs into a real problem. The majority of Americans actually support legal abortion, and more Americans support legal abortion now than a year ago. That's not good for the right.
Every time Republicans are talking about abortion, we're losing, right? Because we don't do it well as a party, right? I think the next generation of Republican that's not a top priority for them. I think we need to talk about things that matter, like inflation and homelessness and mental health access and opioid and drug treatment recovery programs. Those are the things that impact families every single day. And every time we start trying to wrap ourselves as a party around the axle on where we should be on abortion, look, It should be a state's issue. It should be it is effectively out of the hands of the federal government, that we shouldn't be doing national abortion bans or anything like that. And every time we talk like that, and every time we talk about more restrictive laws, we're losing.
Here's another big worry for Republicans. People living in states where abortion access is being restricted are more likely than others to say abortions should be easier to obtain. 62% of Americans, including 40% of Republican voters, say red states are making it too hard to get an abortion. And since we're here, let's roll out another statistic. Independent voters hate the Republican position on abortion. Only 13% of independents say they align with the GOP on banning reproductive freedom, while nearly 4 in 10 independents side with Democrats. And if Democrats can break away even a fraction of those in a general election, that could easily decide the entire presidential race. Unfortunately, the Democratic Party is really out of practice talking about abortion. For years, Democrats believed Republican messaging that said it was political suicide to talk about reproductive rights at all. Now, that spell may finally be breaking.
Congress must restore the right that was taken away in Roe v. Wade and protect Roe v. Wade. Give every woman a constitutional right. The Vice President and I are doing everything to protect access to reproductive health care and safeguard patient safety. But already more than a dozen states are enforcing extreme abortion bans. Make no mistake about it. If Congress passes a national ban, I will veto it.
In the days and weeks after the Dobbs decision, Joe Biden received heavy criticism for his seeming discomfort talking about abortion, and the slow way the White House rolled out its response to a decision Biden knew was coming. And listen, that's fair. I was one of those voices criticizing Joe. But then a funny thing happened. Biden started moving to the left. He moved so much to the left, in fact, that his campaign advisors actually started to worry. Biden's megaphone set off a full-court press among Democrats to actually get out there and fight for abortion rights. Here's Biden in July.
Americans would not stand by and let the court take away the right that's so fundamental. I know I'm 198 years old. But all kidding aside, think about that. I never, ever thought I'd be signing an executive order protecting the right to contraception.
The latest Associated Press polling from July tells us that Biden is really onto something. A staggering 73% of Americans, including half of self-identified Republicans, say that abortion should be legal at 6 weeks. Half of Republicans, guys, I do not need to tell you what a crazy number that is. Democrats have a rare opportunity to build a new electoral coalition around protecting women's most fundamental right to decide what happens to their body. That coalition has the capacity to reshape American politics for decades. But that also means Democrats will need to deliver on all their tough talk. It isn't enough to promise protecting abortion rights. They'll actually need to do it on both the state and the federal level. The alternative is a nation where women die preventable deaths due to the casual denial of their basic equality. It means a nation falling far short of its promise of equal justice under law. And it means a nation in which Republicans pass abortion laws that devastate entire communities. The voting majority is there. Democrats need only seize the opportunity to move our nation away from its unprecedented war on women. For now, voters are still willing to trust Democrats more than anyone else to defend their reproductive freedom. If Joe Biden and Democrats want to hold on to that momentum, they'll need to do more than just speak. They'll need to use the power of the law to protect Americans' bodily autonomy.
Every time Republicans are talking about abortion, we're losing, right? Because we don't do it well as a party.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Like the video if you found it helpful. Remember to subscribe. More than anything, that really does keep this place growing, and it helps me do even better work for you. And as always, leave a comment below so that you can let me know what I should cover next.